Hey there, my name is Jim Bernica, and I am the president of the Firefighter Cancer Consultants. I got a new fancy website, and with that website came a blog. So I'm going to try to put out different blogs about each week, talking about different topics related to firefighters and cancer. But for this week, for the first one, I kind of want to be selfish and talk about myself, just who the heck I am and how I got here. So this all started back in 2006. I'm a Dayton firefighter, paramedic. I've done that for now 15 years. Um, but I was the special events coordinator for our union back then. And one of our fellow firefighters' son was diagnosed for really rare, crazy cancer called Ewing sarcoma. I mean, he was just 5 years old at the time. Um, I ended up throwing a few different functions for him. We made a lot of money. There was a ton of support. And at the end of things, his dad came up to me and said, I don't need all this money. We have insurance. Bills are paid. Stuff needs to go somewhere else. So we ended up sending some of that money to childhood cancer research. And then the other part, just kind of off of a kind of random Google search, ended up going to the Firefighter Cancer Support Network, which was a brand new organization based out of California. So the president founder actually flew into Dayton to accept the check in person. He told us his story and his organization's story, and he kind of sucked me in right then and there. I ended up flying out to California a few months later, not necessarily to meet with him, but I was trying to see all the different baseball stadiums at that time. But I did end up meeting with him. He picked me up in the airport, and we hung out for a little bit. And before you know it, I was the state of Ohio FCSN director. At that time, they just started to expand to a nationwide level. They had California, they had New York, and they had Ohio. So there was really no plan. It was a matter of just get the word out throughout your state the best you can. So and that was pretty difficult back then. There was not a lot of studies out, and the topic was just taboo. Nobody wanted to talk about firefighter cancer. They wanted to pretend like it wasn't there, and you know how we are. We're invincible. It's not going to happen to us. It's completely different now, but back then it was very frustrating trying to get the word out. Um, but I did that position for a few years and got the word out throughout my state, and I ended up becoming vice president of regions on my 30th birthday. And what that meant was I was a guy in charge of all the different states. So, I kind of had to teach them how to get the word out like I had. If there was new state directors coming out, I trained them, and I was their advocate. Whatever if they needed something, I tried to get it for them. So I did that for a few more years, and I ended up becoming interim president for just about 7 months when Mike DeBron stepped down. During that time, we were really, the bread and butter of what that organization did was support. If an individual or their family member was diagnosed with cancer, we helped them out with a mentor, with a toolbox. We did some prevention stuff, but we didn't, that wasn't our main focus back then. But I think, at that time is when we kind of changed direction and said, let's try to prevent these firefighters from being diagnosed with cancer so our phone isn't ringing, that somebody needs support. Excuse me. And that ended up, working very well, and that's something they're still doing today, and they're doing a great job of. So at that time, I could have stayed in that position probably for a while. I ended up stepping back down, starting a new family at that time, being as young as I am, it was too much. So I was back to being an Ohio director. I did that for quite a while to even was assistant director and co-director before I ended up starting this whole firefighter cancer consultants thing. But going back a little bit, right at the end of my interim president gig there, that's when a lot of good things were happening. That's when the white paper, the initial white paper came out. I was part of that in Indianapolis. I also flew to D.C. to the IFF headquarters and worked on their upcoming cancer awareness online program. So there was a lot of great things that came out at that time, and it's still continuing to come out, at this point. But at that time, I was really stepping back. I was try not to travel quite as much, um, with having a young family. And I ended up starting this whole firefighter cancer consultants thing. So, I was doing stuff at a state level, then a nationwide level, and then back at a state level. And now what I do is really just individual departments one at a time. So what I do now is I go to each different fire department. I'll do an inspection of each one of their stations. What I'm looking for there is diesel exhaust, what how their system is, where the fire gear is stored. Do they have gear washers and dryers? How many sets of fire gear do they have? Um, I'm also looking at different policies, procedures they may have, and a lot of these departments don't have any, or they have very few. Um, I also take some time and I interview a firefighter, company commander, and incident commander. And ultimately, what I'm trying to do with all that information is figure out how this department functions on the fire scene and also in the firehouse. Um, I take all that information back with me and I write what I call an action plan. And what my action plan is a realistic analysis of your department in regards to firefighter cancer. I'll tell you what things you're doing, right, and I'll also tell you things that you can do better, and I'll give you suggestions on how to improve those areas. I'm also a certified instructor, so I can come in and I can teach your firefighters, your officers, really how significant a problem firefighter cancer is, and then I can talk about ways to prevent it. That's kind of my bread and butter is this whole prevention side of things, and then I'll touch on what different support organizations are out there if one of your firefighters is diagnosed with cancer. So I know that's probably long enough now. If you're interested, just give me a call. I'll put my website right down here, and look forward to you watching me on my other blogs where I actually talk specifically about firefighter cancer topics.